Okay, hello everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Okay, so in this video, let's look at the switch statement. All right, so the switch statement is another control structure that allows us to write code such that the code or the program would switch and do one thing based on the value, okay, of a condition, or based on an expression, okay, the expression. So the program does one thing. It works very similar to the if-else-if statement. Program does one thing or another based on the value of an expression or the value of, say, a variable. Okay, so because it's very similar to the if-else-if statement, I'm going to create an if-else-if statement or structure so we can write a similar version using the switch statement, so we can see how the switch statement works. It's going to help us better understand it. So I'm going to create a simple, or I'd say straightforward if-else-if statement. And if-else-if statement is going to test on the value of, let's say, month. So I'm going to create a variable that's going to represent the month, okay, or a month. So I'm going to create an int. I'll call it month, and I'm going to set it equal to 1 for January, right? So 1 for January, 2 will be for February, and so on and so forth. So the way we'll write this using an if-else-if structure, it's going to be if month, okay, is equal to, I'm using a double equal sign to compare. If month is equal to 1, then let's print out a statement, system.out.println, saying that the month is January. All right, and let's come up with an else-if structure. Else if the month is equal to 2, then let's print out the month is February. The same thing for March. So else if month is equal to 3, then let's print out the month is equal to March. And then else, okay, if the month variable is not equal to 1, 2, or 3, let's print out. Let's print out a statement saying that, oops, the month is not January, okay, February, or March. Okay, something like that. All right, so this is going to be an if-else-if structure. So we understand the way this works, right? Now month is equal to 1, so let's compile this and then run it. And we should expect to see that the month is January because the value of month is 1. Run this program, we can see the month is January. When I change this to 2, and I compile this and I run, you can see it says month is February. Change it to 3, compile, and then run, says month is March. And then I'm going to change it to, let's say, 90. Because it's none of these, it's because it's not 1, 2, or 3, we should expect to see the month is not January, February, or March, right? So compile, run, the month is not January, February, or March, right? Because it's 90, it's not equal to any of these numbers. All right, so I forgot the word not here. So I'm going to comment this out. Okay, and I'm going to leave the int variable, the month variable that is set to 90. I'm going to comment this in Dr. Java. I think it's command / on Windows. I'm not sure about, on Mac. I'm not sure about Windows. All right, so let's look at a very similar program, actually the same program, okay, or the same structure using the switch statement. All right, so the switch statement again also allows us to do one thing based on the value of a variable, or let's say based on an expression. So you start with a keyword switch, and then in parentheses is going to be your test expression. Now your test expression can be a variable, okay, the value of a variable, or it can be an expression. It could also be a number directly, okay. So I'm going to mention this, and you may not be clear, but before you can over here in this text expression, it can be an int, a short, a byte, a character, or a string. But what is important is that prior to Java 7, if you're using any version of Java that is before Java 7, you cannot include a string in here as a test expression. I'll mention this again getting to the end of the video. So your test expression goes here, and I'll put one in here so we can see how an example of a test expression. And then you have your curly braces, all right? So your test expression goes here, and then your curly braces. In the curly braces is where you have your case statement, and I'm going to type them out so you see them. But before that, I'm going to type in our text expression. So I'm going to type in the variable month. So we are going to switch and do certain things based on the value of month. That's what it means to have a test expression. This is what we are going to analyze to see the value of it. And based on the value of it, we're going to switch between the different cases in the switch statement. We are about to type the different cases. Now, this is a variable. It can also be an expression, right? Okay. So I'm going to start with a keyword case. I'm going to say that in the case where the value of month is 1. I'm not going to type is. I'm just going to type 1. Case 1 means in the case where the value of month is 1. And I'm going to end it with a colon, not a semicolon. This is I think the first time we are seeing a colon. I'm not too sure, but this is one of the few times we're seeing colon. So the case, after case 1, we have a colon. And then you indent your block of code. Your block of code that should run in the case where the value of month is 1. Make sure you indent it. If it's multiple lines, make sure all the multiple lines are indented and not in the same line as a case statement. So you see an example. So in a case where the value of month is equal to 1, let's print out this statement. System.out.println, the month is January. And then I'm going to end it with a break statement. And we'll talk more about the break statement. But I'll explain it too. So we end it with a break statement. So what I have done here is I'm going to switch between the different cases I'm about to type in this or in this block in this curly braces. Okay, I'm going to switch between them based on the value of month. Let's have another case. I'm going to make a copy of this. Or before let me just type it out so we kind of get enough practice. You kind of get enough practice just seeing it. All right, so in the case, make sure that the cases are also aligned. The block of code that should run should be indented. So in the case where the value of month is equal to 2, colon, system.out.println, let's not just copy this. The month is February. Oops. And I'm going to end it with a break statement. And again, I'll explain what the break statement is. Semicolon. All right, I'm going to have our third case here, similar to the if-else-if structure. I'm going to copy it this time around. Okay, so in the case where the value of month is equal to 3, let's print out the month is March. And then break it. And I'm going to have another case, but this time around, I'm not going to type in the case keyword. I'm going to type in default. And I'll explain that in just a second. Default with a colon. I'm going to print out the month is not January, February, or March. And I'm sure you're guessing what the default statement is doing now. All right, so let me explain this. So this is a complete switch statement or switch block. So we are switching between these different cases, okay, based on the value of month. All right. So anytime the program encounters or gets to this line, it's going to check to see. It's going to start running through the cases, right? It's going to check the value of month, for example. In this case, month is let's set it to 1. In this case, it's set to 1. So it's going to start going through the headers, the cases. Is case 1, is case 2, is case 3, and defaults. I'll explain what default is. But as soon as it realizes that, it's matched a case. For example, no case month is 1, so it checks to see in the case where month is 1, we've matched a case. It enters its block of code and starts running it. It starts running it until it reaches this break statement, and then it jumps out of the entire switch statement. It jumps out at the end of it and starts continuing code, below it, right? So if your case is, let's say 3, it starts running through these headers. In the case where month is 1, no. In the case where month is 2, in the case where month is 3, yes. And it branches into the block of code, runs whatever code that's there until it reaches the break statement, and then it will jump out of the switch statement. Now, when it tries to indicate, for example, if we set month to 90 as it was, it's going to check the headers, the case headers, and see in the case where month is 1. Again, we are switching between these cases based on the value of month. So month is 90, it's going to switch between these cases. In the case where month is 1, no. In the case where month is 2, no. In the case where month is 3, no. It's going to get to default. Now, default will run if, okay, the value of month is neither of your cases. The value of month is not 1, is not 2, is not 3. Default will run, regardless. If the value of what your test expression is none of your cases that you set over here, then it's going to switch to default. All right. Now, if you don't have default, then nothing will happen if the value of your variable is not any of these cases, right? So because it's 90, because 90 is not any of these cases, it's going to switch to default and run whatever code that's there until it reaches the break statement. And I will talk more about the break statement and why it's important to have it in the switch structure. So let's compile this and see what happens. I'm going to compile and then run. Now notice that we've commented out this if-else if structure. So now we are dealing with this switch structure here. And it's saying the month is not January, February, March, right? Because we've set it to 90. I'm going to change it to, let's say, 1, compile this, run, and it says the month is January. Let's change it to 3. Compile, we should expect March. Run the program and it says the month is March. Okay, so that's how the switch statement runs. Your test expression, it goes through the cases and sees if it gets a match. So in the case where month is 3, for example, the case where month is 3, it branches into its block of code, runs the code until it reaches the break statement and jumps out. It doesn't care about anything else. As soon as it reaches the break statement, it jumps out. We'll talk about the importance of having a break statement going forward. Now, I'll mention this again. In your test expression of the switch statement, it can be a character, a char or a car, however you want to pronounce it, char, that data type. A char, an int, a short, a byte, or a string. But there's one exception. Prior to Java 7, if you're using any Java version that's before Java 7, you cannot have a string in here. But you can have the other 4. You can have a character, a short, an int, a byte. Okay. So that's how it works. That's an overview of a switch statement. We'll see different examples of this. We'll talk about why it's important to have a break. Now with the default, because if we have 90 over here, and we compile and we run, the reason why we are seeing this statement, month is not January, February, March, is because the case is neither 1, 2, or 3. If the value of your month is neither of these cases that you've specified using the case statement, then it switches to the default. If you don't have a default, I'm going to take it away. If you don't have a default, then when your value or when the value of your test expression is neither of these cases, nothing happens, right? Because if you told the program it just jumps out of it checks the headers, case 1, case 2, case 3. It's none of them. It jumps out. It's done. So when I compile and I run, nothing happens. We see nothing over here. All right. So I'll bring the default statement back using undo. So that's how the switch statement works generally. But we'll talk more about it and we'll learn more about it moving forward. We'll see different programs with it, right? All right. So if you have any questions, please comment down below and I'll do everything to respond to them. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourselves and I'll see you next time with the next video. All right then. Bye-bye.